I love superheroes. They so oftentimes act as models to strive for, or reveal flaws in themselves that make us feel more connected to them than we ever thought possible. However, what if the most powerful protectors on the planet decided to rule with an iron fist? That's what today's movie wishlist is all about. Marvel's own version of the Justice League, the Squadron Supreme. A few guidelines before we set off. I will do my best to weave these characters into the already established mythos of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. However, as I record this during the summer of 2020, there is already a good chance that Scarlet Witch will remake it entirely. Also, this wishlist will most likely contain spoilers for the ongoing saga of Marvel films, so if you're one of the 2 people who didn't see Avengers Endgame or Spider-Man Far From Home, check those out first. Okay, let's dive in. For those who may not be overly familiar with this villainous superhero team, here's a brief and broad overview. The Squadron Supreme was basically, as I described it before, a version of the Justice League with an evil twist that looked and were named different enough by Marvel to feature them as antagonists in their stories. The team is typically composed of the usual members of DC's most popular superhero group, with a few color and power tweaks to keep them from falling under any type of suable situations. Nighthawk acts as our Batman allegory, Power Princess a parallel to Wonder Woman, the Wizard/Speed Demon as a Flash substitute, Dr. Spectrum the replacement for Green Lantern, and finally Hyperion, who acts as a correlation to Superman. Right off the bat, you can see this team has a lot of firepower, but I also think that if given the chance, Marvel could actually make a really wonderful Justice League type film. However, I would like to focus on the version of the Squadron that asks the question, what if the Justice League was evil, or at least in such a place of power that no one dared oppose them? Effectively, this would make them warlords of the world. To establish our powerful antagonists who would openly oppose the Avengers, I propose a 2-film project. In the first, we find the newly established team of Earth's mightiest heroes finding their footing in the aftermath of Endgame. Our primary members would include Doctor Strange, Black Panther, Captain Marvel, Spider-Man, Falcon, the Winter Soldier, Jane Foster as Thor, assuming she is the mainline Thor after Love and Thunder, Ant-Man, the Wasp, and Hulk. Hawkeye might be a tough sell to bring back to the team after the events of Endgame, and the other original core members are either dead, out of commission, or is Scarlet Witch, who's just an overall game changer, just you wait! One aspect that I feel I haven't really seen in any Avengers film explored thoroughly enough is how the team comes together insofar as training, living, and coexisting together. We get snippets, but I would love to see an almost Danger Room style opening that shows that the team has to practice working together. This scene is set to showcase off the amazing abilities of our heroes, but they lack coordination and teamwork. The few who do gel well with one another are those that have worked together in the past, such as Black Panther, Bucky, and Falcon. Oh, this would probably be a great time to mention that I want to see the degradation of Smart Hulk. The work Banner has done in the past to merge his intellect with the Hulk's raw power is beginning to slip, returning him to his rightful glory, a terrifying, unstoppable mayhem machine. Although I'm not typically a big fan of a hero's inner demon springing up to add unnecessary tension to a battle, I'm looking at you, early Shippuden Naruto, recapturing that essence of the Hulk is paramount to what makes the Avengers so gripping in the first place. A misfit team that acts with good intention, but do occasionally cause more harm than good. This is shown off during the opening segment where Hulk briefly loses control and thoroughly dismantles a training robot. Perhaps it inadvertently looks like Ultron, and that sets him off, or it strikes him in his Infinity Gauntlet wielding weakened arm. This freaks out the younger and less seasoned members of the team who are still tripping over one another. The 3 core leaders of Doctor Strange, Black Panther, and Captain Marvel step in before things get too out of hand. With the death of Iron Man and retirement of Captain America, this trio act as a conglomerate of emissaries that protect Earth, the cosmos, and the mystical realms. They represent a unified front like Cap and the Shellhead did before. To some degree, when they weren't fighting. You get my point. An alert springs up in New York that it is being assaulted by Graviton, who already exists in the MCU. He's a very powerful being capable of manipulating gravitons and anti-gravitons, which basically means he can manipulate the push and pull of gravity itself. We witness this as the first responders and the military alike are fighting him before our new Avengers arrive on the scene. Believing that he should become the ruler of the planet, his powers are granted by Gravitonium, which makes him narcissistic and crazy, he returns from outer space to enact his revenge. With Hulk under watch back at the newly rebuilt Avengers complex, our fledgling recruits consisting of Spider-Man, the Wasp, Ant-Man, and Thor, along with Captain Marvel, set out to detain this devastating force. The lack of coordination is evident as the heroes fall prey to Graviton's onslaught. Even Mjolnir, along with Captain Marvel's lasers and brute force, aren't enough to penetrate Graviton's force field. When all hope seems lost, a shadow appears in the sky, cape fluttering in the wind high above the ground as this heroic visage appears on the scene. His features are obfuscated from sight by the bright sunny day. He exclaims to the citizens to fear not, as he will handle this crazed villain. With blinding speed, our newcomer soars down and with one punch shatters Graviton's shield. To respond, the gravity-wielding foe hurls debris at our crimson-clad hero. Each hunk of rock and metal disintegrates immediately as lasers fire from the mysterious figure's eyes. In a moment, Graviton is knocked to the ground by another perfectly placed punch. He stares up in horror at this silhouetted creature with glowing gaze. 2 more blasts land on either side of Graviton's head, scorching the pavement. The figure exclaims aloud that this was a warning, and next time, the disturber of peace wouldn't be so lucky. Still shell-shocked from the battle and what happened thereafter, the Avengers affix Wakandan power-neutralizing handcuffs on Graviton and place him in custody. Meanwhile, the savior of the day flies high in the sky, proclaiming that he is Hyperion, and that Earth has found its mightiest hero. Captain Marvel floats up to thank him for his assistance. His response is curt, in that he states the Avengers' weakness in rule led to this event, that they are no longer needed, that Earth is under his protection. Hyperion soars off into the sky, leaving the team confused and bewildered. Back at Avengers HQ, we see that Hulk has calmed down a bit, and his arm is being treated. Captain Marvel begins to share her report when Black Panther gestures to one of the many screens lining the wall. Hyperion is all over the news. Headlines read that the most powerful being since Thanos has arrived, but thankfully, he is on the side of justice, and that the Avengers' days might be numbered. The team reviews what happened, and we get some fun bonding moments where Ant-Man and Spidey discuss better ways of combining their abilities. Thor holds counsel with Captain Marvel as some of the heavy hitters of the team to discuss the pure terror of Hyperion's power, comparing it loosely with the Hulk's. Without realizing he can hear them, Hulk stares over angrily, stating that Hulk is strongest there is, before shaking off this impromptu outburst of rage. Wasp walks over and says that she isn't sure that that's the case anymore, looking down with a mix of fear and sadness. Black Panther states that if there is indeed another hero on Earth, that they should attempt to find some common ground with him. Doctor Strange agrees and urges any teams that go out into the field to immediately call for assistance should he appear again. Perhaps appealing to him as a large and formidable group would sway him away from his decision to work solo. A few days later, we see our group working out, training, and living together more harmoniously. Suddenly, an alert rings out on all the monitors. A suburban town in California is being assaulted by Advanced Idea Mechanics, or AIM for short. One of their scientists who was living in this area became an informant for the government. As a show of force, AIM decides to make an example of him, his family, and anyone that breathed the same air he had. The new Avengers spring into action as Doctor Strange creates a portal for them to pass through. With Hulk still weakened and losing control of his temper, the lead trio requests that he stay behind. Falcon and the Winter Soldier remain also to act as guards for the facility. Although it had only been minutes since the alarm rose, our heroes find it strangely quiet upon arrival. AIM soldiers are strewn about the streets, dead amongst the citizens. Horrified, the team sets out to find the cause of this brutality, with a few of them guessing that Hyperion might be the cause. In the middle of the street, amongst the smoke and flames, we eventually see Hyperion holding up the last living AIM soldier by his throat. His screams ring out as the few living residents flee from that direction. In a flash, Hyperion's arm plunges through the yellow jumpsuit of the AIM assailant. Like discarding a piece of trash, Hyperion tosses the limp body aside, smiling. He spots the Avengers and flies above them. He spouts that their weakness and lack of vigilance has led to many deaths today. As long as they promise to disband now, he won't force them into an early retirement. Doctor Strange, Black Panther, and Captain Marvel step forward to state that the planet could always use more heroes, but what he is doing is more akin to villainy. They also state that they are no strangers to taking lives, but only when it is absolutely necessary. Hyperion replies that their mercy is a sickness on this earth, and that they must be eradicated. What ensues is a fight with basically an evil incarnation of Superman. Drawing on inspiration from Man of Steel, I want this fight to showcase off Hyperion's capabilities, to a certain degree. This guy is extremely powerful, and I want each punch to feel like a possible death blow if it lands. Meaning Ant-Man, the Wasp, and Spider-Man need to be extra careful, and act mainly by dodging with shrinking technology or Spidey senses, along with sneak attacks, utilizing those same methods. Hyperion's first move is to punch Stephen Strange right in his smug face. However, a portal shows up just in time to catch the fist, placing it past his head a few inches. Strange then tries to slice off his attacker's arm, but finds that the portal lacks the power to do so. Before the next punch can come, Mjolnir slams into the side of Hyperion's mug, causing him to crash into a burning house. Without hesitation, Captain Marvel fires twin lasers into the building, blowing it sky high. Spider-Man and Ant-Man high-five and state that was simple. Black Panther tells them to remain on guard because his technology is still tracking Hyperion's heartbeat. Once again, a shadow appears amongst the flames as Hyperion walks out, unscathed. He flies at Thor and Captain Marvel. Both his fists are caught as the Avengers look to answer with a fist and hammer of their own. Hyperion just smirks as his eyes flash crimson. The two are then thrown backwards into a relatively unharmed house. A portal appears above Hyperion's head as the King of Wakanda flies through vibranium claws extended. He misses barely as Hyperion deftly dodges, catches his right leg, and hurls him toward the Sorcerer Supreme. Two parts of the Avenger leader triumvirate get hurled down the street as a result. Out of nowhere, Ant-Man and the Wasp appear on either side of their powerful foe, launching kicks and energy blasts. Hyperion just floats there laughing as he states that their meager attacks will do nothing to him. He swats them away as both vanish from sight. He calls them cowards as Ant-Man responds that they aren't, but just good teammates. We shoot over to Spider-Man doing his amazing slingshot attack that launches him feet first into Hyperion from behind. Oh, and Spidey is wearing his Iron Spider suit here. This was implemented that if he were to become a more primary member of the team, he would have to wear it, as per Iron Man's orders. Spidey yells out that this combo move was called "Send the Spider to the Fly." He and Ant-Man are very proud of it. Hyperion goes plummeting into the ground, creating a crater in the street. Before they have time to revel in gaining any small amount of ground on him, Hyperion is hurtling toward the wall crawler. Thanks to his Spidey sense, our hero narrowly avoids almost all of Hyperion's attacks. Almost. Trying to keep the encounter light, Spider-Man makes jokes about Hyperion wanting to look like Thor with his cape, asking him if he owns a famous theater, etc. After getting webbed in the face, the 4 extra arms on the Iron Spider suit begin to assault Hyperion to little avail. They dent and fall in on themselves until they are basically useless. Hyperion goes to sweep Spidey's legs with his own, causing our webhead to briefly hop in the air. In a move of blinding speed, Hyperion finally lands that perfect punch. Thankfully, the almost defunct arms of the Iron Spider suit react, lessening the blow to a certain point. However, this attack lays Spider-Man out unconscious. Doctor Strange and Black Panther have since reconnoitered and agree that going in one at a time isn't proving very fruitful. Since the battle in Endgame, the Avengers have practiced on fighting as a team, but typically against large groups. Doctor Strange and Spider-Man are the only 2 remaining members of the group that know how to work together to bring down a singular, powerful entity. Thor and Captain Marvel regroup with the Sorcerer Supreme and King of Wakanda to form a more united front as Ant-Man and Wasp continue to pester Hyperion away from killing Spider-Man. With simultaneous slashes from his hands, Hyperion sends both tiny heroes and homes on either side of the street away from him like a hurricane chastising palm trees. Doctor Strange suggests that he will go rescue their downed comrades as the other 3 keep him busy. Black Panther states that Shuri has informed him that there aren't any civilians for a few blocks, so they do not necessarily need to hold back. Marvel and Thor smile as they besiege Hyperion simultaneously. Remember the fighting from Man of Steel I mentioned earlier? That's how I picture this, supremely powerful beings exchanging blows without discretion. Hyperion attempts to slow Mjolnir's advance, causing him to destroy the street behind him. Then Captain Marvel flies at him from the side, sending him through a few houses. He answers with laser vision that meets those of Captain Marvel's yellow lasers in a very brief beam battle. Thor takes the advantage to strike Hyperion with lightning before meeting him face to face, delivering a series of punches and hammer strikes. Black Panther, anime style, appears seemingly out of nowhere to slice Hyperion in the back. This causes the villain to yell out in pain as we establish that vibranium can wound him. He whirls about to backhand Black Panther, sending the elusive warrior off his feet and into the front porch of a nearby house. The Wakandan suit is incapable of withholding that much pure kinetic energy as potential energy for long, causing the resulting blast to level the rest of the house. Captain Marvel rushes in to strike at Hyperion as he catches her fist, stating that if she couldn't best Graviton, what hope had she of beating him? Enraged, Captain Marvel quickly sweeps Hyperion's legs and throws him into the air. Hyperion rights himself mid-flight, grinning as he flies back toward Marvel. Before he can reach her, Mjolnir slams into his back, forcing him to the ground, pinning him to the pavement. Furious, Hyperion blasts a hole into the earth, freeing himself as he throws his full might at the only 2 heroes left in sight. Hyperion's eyes flash red, Marvel's fists pulse yellow, and Thor crackles with lightning as the three collide in a massive explosion. Both Thor and Captain Marvel are thrown to the ground and shakily try to stand back up. However, through the smoke, Hyperion emerges. He cracks his neck, places his left hand over his wounded back, and gestures with his right for the fight to continue. In that moment, Crimson Chains spring forth and latch onto Hyperion, dragging him into a portal. Doctor Strange appears and states that he did the best he could. He was able to evacuate the Avengers and placed Hyperion in deep space, fearing that any other realm would have to suffer his wrath without the immediate aid of the Avengers. The team is broken, but alive, as they head back to Avengers headquarters to devise a way to defeat, basically, a living deity. Back at the Avengers facility, we see the team being treated for their wounds. Doctor Strange is able to locate Hyperion and is able to establish that they will have 3 days before his return. Spider-Man is unfortunately in a coma due to the last battle. The other members are relatively alright by comparison. Thor and Captain Marvel sustained decent injuries and are thankful for the 3-day respite. Ant-Man and the Wasp came out of it with concussions each, but are healthy otherwise. T'Challa's arms are broken, and he's currently laid up in a med bay. Stephen Strange is more frustrated than anything as he was unable to be nearly as effective in this bout as he had been in the past. He states that they should attempt to pick their battlefield for their next encounter. That way, they won't have to even worry about property or the possibility of Hyperion using any nearby citizens as hostages. Bucky mentions that there are a few formerly Hydra-occupied islands in the South Pacific that might make for excellent arenas that are hundreds of miles away from anything and anyone. From his bed, Black Panther ushers to Bucky. He tells him to contact Wakanda and talk to Shuri about producing a very limited number of vibranium armaments for the Avengers to use in their next fight. Utilizing local surveillance and video captured from Black Panther's suit, they are able to identify that Hyperion is indeed vulnerable to 2 things: vibranium and, to a certain degree, magic. They devise a plan in which they will try to take Hyperion alive, using the power-dampening Wakandan handcuffs. If that doesn't work, the Winter Soldier will use a specialized sniper rifle to take out Hyperion for good. At this point, Hulk's fury is rendering him almost mute. He studies the footage of the fight again and again. We see him observing the stronger members of the team that were brought low with a silent frustration. During this time, Hulk's hurt arm dimly glows with green gamma energy in his veins, slowly repairing it. What follows is a time-lapse of the next few days, where we see Doctor Strange and Captain Marvel working with the remaining Avengers on how to engage this powerful being, while simultaneously showing them setting the stage for the forthcoming battle. The day has finally arrived. The plan is pretty simple: work in unison to afford Captain Marvel the opportunity to affix the cuffs. If that fails, Winter Soldier will deploy lethal measures around Hyperion, as well as firing his newly acquired vibranium bullet dispensing sniper rifle. Before setting out, the team visit Black Panther and the newly awakened Spider-Man in the medbay. Ant-Man tells Spidey that he'll do his best, and that he wishes he was going to be out there with all of them. Black Panther urges Captain Marvel and Doctor Strange to do whatever they must to stop this menace from terrorizing their world. Strange pulls Hulk aside and says, "Look, Banner, you are our backup plan. If everything goes south, I pull everyone out and you go in." Hatred blazing in his eyes at both being called Banner and once again getting sidelined, the Green Behemoth takes an aggressive step toward the Sorcerer Supreme before regaining control. While they wish they could bring the Hulk along initially, he will act as their wild card and, for once, he can fight without holding anything back. The fiery ring of a portal springs to life as the team departs. Upon arrival, Winter Soldier and Falcon rush up to their respective hiding spots, Bucky to his sniper perch, and Sam to his spot to act as a decoy if the need arose. Captain Marvel soars into the sky to act as a scout. Doctor Strange and Thor begin to conjure a light show to attract Hyperion right to them. The Wasp and Ant-Man shrink down and out of sight. Not long thereafter, Captain Marvel calls to the rest of them that he is indeed coming. Slamming into the sand, Hyperion creates a small sandstorm upon his arrival, eyes smoking with red fumes as he glares at the Avengers. "I won't fall for that trick again," he exclaims, pointing at Doctor Strange. "The fact that you fell for it once has kept us all chuckling for days," Strange retorts. "I wonder if the spider and the cat are laughing," Hyperion lashes back. The smirk that briefly danced across Strange's face vanishes. Hyperion looks around at all the visible members of the team and asks if this is some sort of pathetic attempt at an ambush. He thought they might try something like this, that the weak always tries some sort of underhanded way to win. Hyperion is able to spot thousands of small ants along the coastline and in the air, along with Falcon hiding amongst the trees to the south. As a display of his superior senses, Hyperion points the hidden Avenger out, shocking the group. Captain Marvel says that it doesn't matter if he figures out their plan, and that it's already too late. In unison, Doctor Strange and Captain Marvel yell out, "Avengers, assemble!" Thor throws Mjolnir right at Hyperion. He scoffs and dodges a few inches left of it. However, in that moment, the Wasp and Ant-Man, who were riding the magical hammer, attack. Hope delivers a heel clothesline to Hyperion's face as Ant-Man sweeps his leg, laying him flat out. Startled by the attack, Hyperion is briefly dazed, but quickly surmises that they must have equipped that same metal that harmed him in their previous encounter. Captain Marvel then dives straight at the villain, throwing up another deluge of sand. An orange explosion then follows as both Hyperion's and Marvel's lasers meet once again, separating them. A bolt of bedazzlement accompanied by Thor's lightning find their mark as Hyperion is forced on his back foot. Hyperion, briefly stunned, flies straight toward the magic wielders. A portal opens up right in front of him, and he stops before he dives straight into it. He shakes his head, saying, "Not again," as a lightning-infused Mjolnir flies forth from the inky blackness of space, colliding squarely into Hyperion's face. Thrown backward onto the beach, Hyperion hollers in pain as blood pours from his nose. Thor and Captain Marvel rush in to keep up the momentum. Reeling from the onslaught, Hyperion has difficulty keeping up with the coordinated attacks from these two powerhouses. Not to mention that Strange is creating portals to make Hyperion miss his attacks and provide Mjolnir with unorthodox methods of assault. After he is beaten to a near standstill, Captain Marvel rushes in to place the power-dampening bracers on Hyperion. Before she gets the chance to do so, Hyperion looks up toward the sun and takes off. Surprised that he can still move, let alone fly, Thor and Captain Marvel give chase into the sky. Strange communicates with the remaining hidden Avengers. He says that they might be using their secondary strategy shortly. Moments later, two craters are formed in the beach, with Captain Marvel and Thor lying in their respective epicenters. Hyperion floats down from the sky, appearing completely renewed. The horror on the heroes' faces is evident. Hyperion states that they, despite their best efforts, are mere ants before him. He begins to lay waste to the beach, destroying all the mines and traps that were placed to kill him. Doctor Strange calls for Plan B to be engaged. At that moment, Falcon flies out, firing his guns and missiles in Hyperion's direction. Assuming that all the armaments being thrown at him contain that possibly lethal metal, Hyperion dodges and fires his lasers at the incoming offensive. Seconds after, he tears off Falcon's wings, sending Sam plummeting toward the earth. Using the winds of Watum, Doctor Strange slows his descent, landing him gently on the ground. As he throws both of Falcon's wings at the two Avengers on the beach, Hyperion hears a gunshot from a ways off. Avoiding the bullet by mere inches, Hyperion feels the alien metal coating shave across his cheek. Consumed with anger, he launches a condensed beam of crimson energy from his eyes in Bucky's direction. The result is a massive explosion, completely obliterating the Winter Soldier's hiding spot. Hyperion looks down and notices dozens of ants swarming him. Ant-Man states that he and his friends take offense about that crack about ants he made earlier as they overtake his body. Firing his laser vision wildly, Hyperion attempts to remove the insects by force before plunging into the ocean. Doctor Strange and Thor take this advantage to create a pillar of swirling, electrified ocean water in an attempt to subdue Hyperion. Bursting forth from this mini hurricane, Hyperion slams into Thor, knocking her unconscious. Before he can turn his full attention to the Sorcerer Supreme, yellow lasers knock back Hyperion a few feet. The continuous beam buys Doctor Strange enough time to bind Hyperion with the chains of Cyttorak once again. Summoning up a great deal of strength, Hyperion manages to fire his red lasers over Captain Marvel's, striking her in the temple and knocking her back into the nearby jungle. He then turns his vision down to slice through the magical bonds holding him. Doctor Strange decides to retreat and utilize their most powerful weapon. He portals out all the Avengers he can sense before Hyperion can deliver the death blow to any of them. As Hyperion flies fist ready to destroy this puny little wizard, green flashes from Strange's necklace. The Eye of Agamotto freezes Hyperion in place. Strange admits that his magic wouldn't be enough to incapacitate or kill Hyperion, and that sometimes it takes a monster to kill another monster. Strange disappears through a portal as one appears on the other side of the beach. The time control detaining Hyperion is lifted. He senses something new. Turning around, he sees the smoldering portal hang parallel to the ground, up about 10 feet or so. Through it, an enormous green monster arrives, landing with 1 foot down kneeling. The Emerald Terror slowly looks up with pure hatred in his eyes. The two lock their gaze as both stare with anger toward the other. Hyperion because of this ongoing nuisance that is the Avengers, and Hulk finally seeing the one that not only harmed his allies, but claims to be Earth's mightiest hero. As we've seen in previous one-on-one fights with the Hulk, we'll once again see him fighting with reckless abandon. I want this fight to be brutal and visceral, with a similar vibe to the Hulk vs. Iron Man sequence we were given in Avengers Age of Ultron. Hyperion and Hulk fly and dash toward one another. Their collision is heralded by a giant shockwave. They begin to exchange blows, and we see that Hyperion isn't dodging the attacks. He even takes a few to the face, shrugging them off, stating that this green monster is nothing compared to him. This infuriates the Hulk to no end, allowing him to strike Hyperion squarely without contention. This hit sends the would-be savior of Earth flying across the sun-drenched coast. As he sits up, he notices that blood is dripping from his nose. Not a moment later, the light of day is eclipsed by the Jade Giant's shadow as he slams Hyperion into the sand. Realizing that this is a fight to be taken seriously, Hyperion begins to weave around, avoiding Hulk's attacks and striking quickly with his own. However, Hulk starts to discern that his opponent's movements are slowing ever so slightly. The fight rages on the burning sands as each fighter lands significant blows on the other. In a war of attrition though, only the Hulk could ever be the victor. After an amazing display of speed and strength, the warriors lock in a grapple, and for the first time, we see Hyperion truly overpowered. Thrown to the ground again, the Hulk's anger takes hold as he begins to pummel his latest rival. Attack after attack cause Hyperion to lose consciousness as Hulk shepherds him ever closer to the afterlife. Before the final blow, Doctor Strange reappears, teleporting both the Hulk and Hyperion to opposite ends of the beach. Stephen steps in front of his brutish comrade, stating that he has won. Binding him once again with the chains of Cyttorak, Strange places the Wakandan power-dampening cuffs on the fallen foe. Hulk moves in again to finish what he started, but the Sorcerer Supreme rebuffs him, utilizing the Winds of Atum once again. With a crazed look in his eye, Hulk declares that he must prove that he is undoubtedly the strongest there is. Stephen looks at his teammate and explains that he has done that already. There is nothing left to prove. Without him, the Avengers would have died today, and they'll need him again in the future. It's what she would have wanted. Images of Black Widow pour into the violent maelstrom that is the Hulk's mind, calming it into a pristine lake. As the Hulk drops to his knees, he reverts into Bruce Banner and falls unconscious a few yards away from the lapping waves of the sunset-saturated ocean. Hyperion is placed in the lowest portion of the raft, one of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s maximum security prisons. It is later discovered that, while in captivity, his powers were derived from the sun. Isolating him in a lead-lined prison makes him a minor threat at best. The Avengers are battered, but not broken. The team eventually recovers, and we see that they have resumed training. Spider-Man and Ant-Man have been busy coordinating new special moves, while Thor and Captain Marvel spar to new levels of extreme, as to avoid being caught off guard by another unearthly being again. Black Panther and Doctor Strange stand in front of the large monitors constantly surveying the world when a new message arrives. A video begins to play of a masked man. He claims that Hyperion is part of a larger team, and that they want him back, that they will take him by force if necessary. The Avengers have 48 hours to comply, or the Squadron Supreme will wipe them from existence. There you have it, my brief description of what the first time the Avengers facing off against Hyperion would be like in the MCU. I normally don't get this detailed, but I just couldn't help myself. However, I would love to know what dream scenario you would like to see for Earth's mightiest heroes in the future. Let me know in the comments or tweet them at GoCritical on Twitter. I'd really love to hear them. Also, I'm no writer and I'm sure the plot has flaws, but basically I just want to see the Avengers fight Superman, and this is as close as we can get for now. If you have any questions about the clips used, please ask and I'll let you know where I found them. If you enjoyed this and want to support this video, consider checking out our Patreon and sharing this video with a buddy. You do not have to do any of that though, as your time is honestly the most valuable thing. Thanks for dropping by, and until next time, remember to adapt and overcome.
I'm sorry.